Now, we all know a basic retirement. The retirement age is getting later and later. The people were retiring at, 62, 65, 67, or beyond. And then we have groups like the FIRE movement that are retiring as soon as possible. So, what if you can retire early? And if it will affect your life better down the road, or living a little and retiring later? I've recently went through the same debate with myself, and I'll share with you the conclusion I came to from my own personal situation. And maybe you can apply some of these things to your own personal situation as well. So, I made a video about this before. I've mentioned this in a couple of videos where I did the math on my retirement, and I could retire successfully at 50 years old. Now, I have a Roth IRA, I have a 401k, but I also have a brokerage account. Now, if you withdraw from your 401k or your Roth IRA before 59 and a half, you'll get a 10% penalty. Now, of course, a Roth IRA, of course, you can take money out. You can take any amount of money out of your Roth IRA that you physically put in, but you cannot touch the growth without penalty. All this I was taking into account with my goal to retire at 50, because that means I really just need enough money to last from 50 to 59 and a half. And I figured that I could safely do that with putting more effort into my brokerage account, because I can access that freely. So, what happened? Retiring at 50 sounds pretty good. I still got about a decade, 5 to 10 years left of my prime before I start to, shrivel up in most cases. Some people last a lot longer. So, some of you also know that a couple years ago, I saved up so that the year that I turned 40, which was last year, because I'm 41 now, during the year that I turned 40, from June 14th, 1984, from June 14th, 2024 to June 13th, 2025, I could take at least 6 vacations. I've never vacationed like that in my life, and usually I take, 1 or 2 really low-key vacations, but I wanted to do at least 6 vacations during the year that I was 40, and I did that. I had budgeted $12,000 to $14,000, and end up spending $20,000, because I spent $8,500 in Vegas. Just $8,500 that was just Vegas. But so I was like, okay, I had already budgeted for me to do that when I was 40, and then I was going to get, that was going to launch me into hunkering back down to my regular budget, which would allow for about 3 vacations, at max spending about $5,000 per year on vacations. I could take, 2 or 3 decent vacations. Here's the problem. Having those 6 vacations in the year, it awakened a level in me that I didn't know that I would get accustomed to. I loved taking a vacation every other month. Loved it. And now, then it hit me, like, for the next 10 years. Like, this year, I limited myself to only 4 vacations. And that's going a little bit above what I was supposed to be budgeting. But I gave myself a little bit of breathing room, because I increased in my Lyft driving. And, on my days off, I drive for Lyft. So it gave me a little bit more breathing room with my budget. But I really wanted to take those vacations. So here's what my mind starts spinning. Is it really worth me going this next decade essentially, and not doing something I really love. So I start running numbers. What does working now to 59.5 look like? So I figured if I just pretty much ignored my brokerage account, which I could still put some in there, and I still will continue to do so, but just continue to max out my Roth IRA and doing 10% to my 401k, because already 25 to 30% of my income goes to investments. Minimum 25 to 30% is really, sometimes it's 30% plus every week. A minimum of 25 to 30% goes into my investment accounts. So I'm already doing higher than most. I'm single with no kids, so I have that kind of freedom. But I figured if I just kind of neglected my brokerage account, which is what I have to contribute the most into, and just max out my Roth IRA and can do 10% of my 401k, by the time I hit 59.5, I would have, and conservatively, because I always, the trailing 10 years of my investments, I always calculate 2% less. And I also calculate based on the fact that I'll never increase what I'm giving, which is not true because I'll get raises every year. But with those two things in mind, conservatively, I would have, right at $3 million, which is a very comfortable retirement for my level of life. So I was like, well, that's not so bad. But then I discovered something called the Rule of 55. Now, the Rule of 55 says if you quit your job on the same calendar year that you turn 55, you can access your 401k without penalty. You can start withdrawing without penalty. Now, the main downside to that is you cannot roll over your 401k into a traditional IRA. And that would be good because if you know anything about what they put in what typical 401k choices are, I'm with Vanguard. Their choices for funds is not as good as what you can pick for yourself. Like the best you can do in a Vanguard account is equivalent to the S&P 500, which is not bad because that's still averaging at this point like 14.5% per year, which is still great. It's definitely outperforming my target date fund by about 4% per year. And I started putting more funds into that than my my target date fund, while still contributing to that base. But anyway, so what that would look like is, instead of retiring at 50, I retire at 55. At 55, I can withdraw from my 401k, and at that time, with my conservative estimate, on a conservative estimate, I'll have $800,000. And that is a good amount. With $800,000 all I need to do, if I let that stretch out from 55 to 65 and leave my Roth alone, just let my Roth continue to grow without contributing to it for another 10 years, then on my conservative estimate, by the time I get 55, I'll pretty much have drained my 401k, but I'll have about $2.5 million in my Roth, which would be at 65. That's plenty, especially considering the fact that everything you take out of your Roth IRA is tax-free. So I could seriously withdraw at that point if I have $2.5 million, even if it's just growing 10%, which you'll be doing more than that. But if I could withdraw easily $150,000 a year, and live really well. And that's pretty much the route I've decided to go. That is the marker I have decided to go, because there's a couple of withdrawals that people talk about with retiring early, which is the fact that a lot of your friends are not retired yet, so you're going to be lonelier. In my case, it's a little bit compounded because my friends are my family, and the family that I hang out with the most are younger than me by 7 to 10 years. My youngest cousin that I hang out with is actually 13 years younger than me. My cousin Darren, he's 7 years younger than me. And I travel with them the most. And while they're, Josh he got his degree in architectural engineer, he's going to retire early, but even him retiring early will just match up with my retirement. So so that is where I've gone. That was my thought process when deciding on what to do. Now, of course, my other option is doing what I need to do right now to just increase my level of life to where I can retire sooner and not rely on my retirement accounts. Now, notice I'm not relying on Social Security. Social Security is not in my calculations because I think it's unstable. If I get Social Security by the time I hit the age where I can withdraw, that's just going to be sugar on top. That's just frosting on top of the cake. Sprinkles on top of the frosting that's on the cake. But I'm not going to rely on that to support myself in retirement. But the extra money will be nice. When you're thinking about your own personal retirement, you're just going to have to think about, what do I want to do now? Because if you work hard now, you can play earlier later. Or you can play now and just have to continue to work your whole life. I think that I got a good balance. I think because of the way I've decided to go forward, I can take 4 to 6 vacations a year now. Like, again, I'm single with no kids. I can pay all my monthly expenses with 1 week's worth of pay. I can pay my monthly, I hope I said it right. I can pay my monthly expenses with 1 week's worth of pay. So my cost of living versus what I make I have a very good ratio. My cousin figured it out, even though he's making 6 figures, my income is actually doing a lot more for me than him. Now, of course, I live in Randolph County, North Carolina. He lives in Tampa, Florida. So his cost of living is a lot higher than mine. But once you find out what you want to do, consider your friends. Consider what you're going to do when you retire. Have a plan. For me, it's travel. Because a lot of people, you get to a point where in a certain part of your life, you start to identify with your career. That's why a lot of people, when they retire, they expire, because they identify a lot with their job. So, and if you don't have no friends, if you retire so early that you don't have no friends in your age group or in your interest group that are retired too, it might cause a set of loneliness if you're, especially if you're a people person. So all these things should be considered. But regardless of what you do, always put something for retirement. If you want to work till 65, fine, but make sure that when you're 65 years old, you are okay. This is a long video, and I normally cut it off 8-10 minutes. I'm done. I'm rambling but this is a topic that I'm passionate about, because getting your finances in order is so important for yourself and so important for your future. There's a guy that I watch on YouTube, and he always says the person that's going to take care of the older you is the younger you. And I so much agree with that. Your own future is your responsibility. It's not your family's. It's not dang sure not the government's. It's your own. So take care of yourself, but also enjoy life now. because life is never promised, but it's better to plan like you have a future instead of going to the future and it's terrible because of things that you didn't do when you were younger. Anyway, I'm going to shut the freak up because I could yap about this for a long time. I hope this has helped you. Uncle Step Bro out.